This episode is brought to you by Generate Solutions, your go-to AI experts specializing in empowering commercial real estate companies and environmental consulting firms. As AI is quickly transforming industries and enhancing efficiency, it is important you don't let your business fall behind. At Generate Solutions, we streamline workflows and automate tasks by creating custom AI agents tailored specifically to your business needs. Interested in taking your operations to the next level with AI? Email mfiorante@generatesolutions.com or find us directly on LinkedIn by clicking the link in the bio. On to our episode.
Welcome to another edition of A Conversation with John Conenna. Today it brings me great pleasure to come to a place where has been a long time here in Norridge, Illinois. It's called Cumberland Chapels. And today we're going to meet with the Associate Funeral Director of Cumberland Chapels, who's been around for many years in this industry. And we are directly here at the Cumberland Chapels here in Norridge. It's the gentleman, Mr. Larry Friel, and we're going to talk about Larry, his career in this industry and what it's been all about, and how he started in it and how he changed, how it has changed. We will get into that shortly with him to see his perspective on things. Larry?
Yes, John.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure being here.
This is great. This is great.
Yes, it is.
How did it start for you, in the sense of how long did you go back with this? Of course,
John,
you're from this area?
I grew up in Harwood Heights. I grew up 8 blocks east of the funeral home here. I grew up a block from Norridge Park. Went to St. Eugene's School, grammar school, went to Maine South. I knew at the age of 6 I was going to be a funeral director.
Wow.
Yeah. I knew my entire life I was going to be a funeral director. Sounds very unusual.
Well, yeah.
My dad was an iron worker. My mother was a stay-at-home mother. I'm the oldest of 3 children. And as a kid, I just knew I was going to be a funeral director.
That's a huge statement,
Yeah,
especially at the age it was.
Yeah.
So how did you know? I mean, how did you know?
My dad's father, I always call my Irish grandfather, passed away. I was about 5 and a half, almost 6, and he was waked at Matt's funeral home over on Central. And I remember my mother always had us elegantly dressed. She'd have her pants ironed and her shirt starched. And I just remember as a little kid being at my grandpa's wake. Back then, there were 2 nights to wakes. I just thought, this is cool. And I just knew my entire childhood that I was going to be a funeral director. It's very unusual.
I wasn't expecting that opening from you. I was expecting that maybe, you were a sci-fi major, or you were studying to be a lawyer because of the presence that you've had in the community and how you are with everyone, and the personality. We'll get into his personality, which is second to none. Wow. I mean, I was really expecting you to say, maybe when I was 30 years old, I decided to do this.
Well, I'll tell you a crazy story. When I was in 8th grade, so that's about 12, 13, I went to St. Eugene's down the street here.
Sure.
And I hated school as a kid. I just knew I wanted to be a funeral. I thought I was wasting my life in school. I said, I should be working in a funeral. And I remember in 8th grade, over at St. Eugene's, we used to sit up with our books like this. And a nun, Sister Mary Irenea Burns, was my teacher at the time. And I remember she called upon me, and I was daydreaming. I was riding shotgun in a hearse at St. Joseph Cemetery in River Grove at the age of 13. And she was like, Lawrence, I'm going to call you by your
real name. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, yes, sister. And I was probably about 2 chapters behind because I had the book up, but I was dreaming I was, directing a funeral.
Wow.
Yeah, kind of crazy.
Crazy.
But I just always knew, and I've been doing this for almost 52 years. If I had to do it over again, I would do exactly what I'm doing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
What was the first, now since I know that this was the passion from the get-go, what was the first assignment that you remember, and where was the first place?
Sure.
Let's talk about the early years.
I did it kind of like graduate from high school, Maine South, and I went to Triton for 1 year. I got you had 30 credits. I enrolled at the mortuary school. It was called Worsham College. It was located at 515 North Dearborn in Chicago, Dearborn and Grand.
Okay.
It was a 12-month course. And I worked at a funeral home. My very first job was at a funeral home at 7133 Southwestern. It was called McPhee Funeral Home in a Marquette Park area. And It was like October of '74. And I remember going with the owner. In fact, he's a very dear friend. He just passed away a few years ago, Jimmy McPhee.
Oh, wow.
We called him JJ McPhee. And I come home from school, mortuary school, goes, hey, you want to go to Holy Cross Hospital with me? And when we pick somebody up, we call it a removal. We pick
Got
up
it.
And I'll never forget when I went with him, that was my very first time. And I remember the guy's name and everything. Brought him down to the stretcher, brought him to the funeral. First time I ever embalmed, I was 18 years old. And that was where I started. Then I went to work for Lawrence Funeral Home, Lawrence and Austin, which was much closer.
I remember well.
I grew up 2 miles from there. And they were nice people, but I didn't realize until I got into it, but they were very inexperienced that they owned a funeral home. And that's when I realized that a lot of funeral homes are not as skillful as you think. They're very limited to their knowledge, or what they would call their minimalists.
But you see that early on with the Lawrence Funeral Home?
Not with them, just as I went to different. What would happen? I worked for them for about 4 years, and the reason I left was they weren't real busy, and I wanted to be busy and have a lot of background. One kid was 4 years older than me. The other kid was 6 years younger than me. I figured I was right in the middle.
The middle.
They weren't enough to keep it. So I went to work for a tough Irish guy in Oak Park named Tom Williams.
Okay.
He was a nice guy, but he was a tough guy. And he did everything right. And of all the guys I worked for, and I've been involved in this for 50 years, I've worked with probably a couple hundred really good guys. He was the most knowledgeable guy. Tom Williams. He knew the business.
Where you got the experience and the knowledge and the get-go and everything else.
John, he was a stickler, but I always respected him because he did things right.
When you were with this Lawrence Funeral Home and the place before and the top Mr. Williams, yes. How old were you then?
Well, 18, 19, 20, okay. 21. I was pretty young, 22.
So the thing that has always amazed me to well, I'm not jumping forward. The thing that has amazed me about what you do is here you have this passing, the death in the family. Now you have to be the counselor. You have to be the consoler. You have to not even, and I'm sure you've had some emotional breakdowns in your day.
No, I really haven't.
But okay, that's the thing where I have found with you where you're the even keel because now, that's a big part where the confidence comes in, I feel. Am I wrong to say that?
Oh, you're right. Well, I think the first thing is based on trust. Even whatever we do, you got to trust the individual. It could be what you do. It could be a dentist. It could be an auto mechanic.
Right.
Do we trust this individual? You don't want to fracture that trust.
No.
There are a lot of funeral homes. I worked for several in my younger day. And the advantage was, John, everybody does things different. If you walk into 10 different restaurants, there are going to be 10 different ways of doing things. You see 10 different dentists, same thing with funeral homes. So I worked for one funeral in Downers Grove in 1979, 1980. The lady's name was Wilma Winterfield, a wonderful lady, but she was just very businesslike. She was nice, honest, business. But, I would listen to her make arrangements. This cost $17.23. People don't want to hear that.
It was robotic in a sense.
Robotic, yeah. And then there's an old expression, some people you learn what not to do. And I worked for a couple of different places over the years, and I learned a lot being at Cumberland, because Cumberland's a very unique place. It was a family-owned funeral by 3 different families. We had different associates there, and they were all older guys. And I would just sit in the afternoon here and listen to these guys with their stories. It's like going to Harvard.
I can imagine. The stories had to be endless.
60s, I used to embalm at a place in Oak Park called Columbia Chapels. We're getting Tony Sharafa, Sal DeCola, Bobby Vacchiolo, all those. And I used to work with all those guys. And I would listen to their knowledge, and it was, like I say, it was like going to college.
Sure.
You couldn't pick it up at a regular school. These street smart men that.
And here was the Lupo, the Carbonara.
Well, Alex was a great guy. Yeah, I know he was good pals with your dad.
Yeah.
Alex, what I liked about Alex was there's 2 guys that were like my mentors in the film business. One was Alex Carbonara. And the other guy named Eddie Janis. Eddie worked for Malik. Wow. Eddie was in his 60s. He was going to embalming seminars with me, and I would stop at Malik Funeral Home with him to have coffee. Come on, he wanted to show me people he embalmed. He was so proud of his work, and I just loved the guy's passion. And most people don't have that passion.
No,
I don't care what I call them minimalists. They never expand their horizons.
I'm going to go back to the guy who wanted to do this from childhood to this moment now that we're talking about. Did you like the progression from the passionate years of I want to do this to the passionate years now. I'm into this. Now, do I want to keep going forward?
Oh, yeah.
And after hearing the stories of a DeCola, a Carbonara, a Lupo, what went through your mind as you went forward with this?
Well, everybody's a learning experience. I learned a lot from all these guys. Tony Lupo taught me greatly here. We're about 7 years apart age-wise, but he was kind of like a big brother in a way.
Yeah.
He schooled me a little bit. Alex Carbonara, I remember once in a while pulling me, coming in the office, or a kid, and they close the door, like Madonna closing the door. I mean, when I walk out of this
Gonna
place,
be making up.
like, I get caught stuck in a trunk here. And just being around those guys, it was a wonderful thing. They were kind of like your father or your uncle.
Sure.
Something would go wrong, and I just remember one time I was at All Saints Cemetery and I was aggravated about something. I came back and Tony Lupo says, "What do you get?" He called me the doctor. "What are you getting all worked up about?" I said, "Well, at the cemetery, the guy wouldn't let us see the entombment." And he looked right at me and goes, "Did you tell the family at All Saints Cemetery?" I go, "No, there's nobody getting upset about it." That light bulb moment. You're right. It's a cemetery policy. I was a guy who thought he had everything had to be perfect, but sometimes when you're dealing with other people, it doesn't always go that way. They don't share that desire or passion that you have.
No. Yeah. And thank you for bringing that up. It's almost like when my mom told me, "Hey, Mom, I met Larry Friel today, and he barely said hello to me, and wasn't my deodorant." She goes, "No, but everybody's different." I'm saying you gotta find a different way to approach this.
I'm like that too. You say hi to somebody, walk right by you, and like, "Oh my God," but
yeah,
everybody's different.
Everybody's different. And so what happens after the Williams days? I know Mr. Williams.
I was only there for a short while. He let me go. I got laid off 3 times in my career. She was good because it makes you stronger. And when yes, you're grateful for what you have. What happened was I worked for him for 2 months. He pulled me aside and said, "Son, you don't have enough experience." So what happened was I was driving his flower car to a Jewish funeral home in the city. And it just turned out that one of the guys, the employees at the funeral home lived in Harwood Heights, a guy named Leo. He lived around Oak Park and Montrose. He goes, "You're from Harwood Heights, come work for us." So I went to work for Pizer. It's a big Jewish firm. I worked there for about 4 months. It was tough. I was basically a limousine driver.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "I'm a funeral director. I don't want to be a limo driver, Then I went to work for a couple of guys on Lincoln Avenue, 2 gay guys.
Okay.
And it was just interesting.
Different mentality in the sense of how they did things.
Yeah, Polish place to the Irish place, worked for the Jewish place. Now I'm with 2 gay guys. I'm like, "Oh, Madonna."
Yeah.
There's a little something.
It's come full circle.
It's like, whoa, they were nice guys. And they let go of me go. His business was slow. And I was working with a guy from Norway named Don Santo, great guy. He was a trade embalmer. All he did was embalmed. And I started hanging around with him in 1979. And I did that many, many years. I embalmed for many, many funeral directors. I've embalmed probably about 13,000 people in my career.
Do you mind me asking, Larry,
Sure.
Was that the first major thing? I'm not taking away from driving the car and learning this, but was this the first major thing? I mean, this embalming. Now, you almost have to be like the doctor because you got to know what's right and what's wrong with this, correct?
That's true to a certain extent. But no, I worked with this guy and I say this, but I speak at conventions and stuff, but these trade embalmers, it's all they did. They didn't go on funerals. They just embalmed.
Embalmed.
And then after you start doing it over and over, these guys were like way ahead, skill wise. They were. And I was with Don Sano, Alex Carbonara here, and a guy named Dick Golden, who was one of my mentors. Dick died last year. He was a Park Ridge guy. He embalmed for like 17 funeral homes. Wow. And in the early 80s, I used to hang with him. So I was very blessed to have 3. And then a guy named Joe Vitucci teach me too. I had 4 trade embalmers teach me. I don't know anybody who's been that blessed to have those kind of guys.
And guys, this is like an all-star funeral director.
Absolutely.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Vitucci was Grand and
Yeah, 1313.
Sure.
He was a great guy.
And a very popular place to go to, maybe the Cumberland of the day.
Well, this is a long time ago. Joe, his brother, Dodo, we used to call him. Joe was more the embalmer. Dodo was the director. Joey embalmed Ferrago, Forest Glen, and Meisner. And I used to help him out this in the early 80s. I would help him call, "Hey kid, can you come do one for me?" And I helped him out. He was a good guy. And I was, like I said, I was blessed. I was around a lot of high-powered guys.
Oh, yeah. I got to ask you because even in my business back in the day when there were a travel agency on every corner, What was the difference when you were starting out? If you were going to Cumberland, you were going to the Tucci, you were going to Columbian, or you were going to Montclair or Belmont Funeral Home?
Right.
What was the major difference? Was it that Larry knew John Conenna, John
so.
Conenna knew Larry Friel?
I think that's the most. A lot of it's based on ethnicity.
Okay.
You know, I'm not Italian.
Right.
Probably 75%.
But you're great with the community of Italians. Yeah.
Right. But some people, I remember as a young guy, my friends right here in Harwood Heights, grandma was at Galewood or Montclair. They go, Larry, we'd like to call you. But, you know, I understood it. It's a personal connection.
It definitely is.
Majority of the people that call me know me personally or they know of me.
Right.
Very rare as a stranger.
Not that I want to get into this. Back in those days,
Yes.
those early days when we
Yep.
had the 2-night funeral,
Oh,
I
yeah,
still remember the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then
Yep.
it was just crazy. I mean, not
Yes.
crazy. That's how respectful the
Yes.
was of the time.
Yes, it was. Very much so, John. Very much so.
Was the difference besides knowing a Larry Friel or a Carbonaro or a Lupo? Was the difference always price or no?
I would
when
say
it came
no,
down to it.
I would say very rare. It was
Yeah.
a personal connection. Who do you trust?
Right.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, once they see you in action, you earn their trust, they're going to call you.
Right.
I mean, I'm getting calls from people. And I had a funeral today. I didn't know the people. A trustee in Harwood Heights happens to be related to him. She called me up, said, my aunt's going to be dying. Why don't you take care of it? I get a lot of it. I probably, at least a third of my calls are people I don't even know. People referring to me.
You know, that's amazing. That's amazing. But again, it comes back to the reputation of a Larry Friel.
Mhm.
It comes back because now I'm sure, hey, Larry helped with my mother-in-law. Larry helped,
yeah.
and this is the referral. Even with me now,
Oh, absolutely.
it's become the referral.
Of course,
Instead of
course.
handing. I remember my dad would mail out 100 things at Harwood Heights. Hey, I hope these people get them. Maybe by next week we'll get some business.
No, we do it.
Now it's over.
But what refers to me like an insurance guy, it's all kind of similar. It's a relationship occupation,
Right.
you know.
When do you start to see, after some of the early years that you've mentioned to me, when do you start to see now the progression of a Larry Friel that now he says, you know what, I got this. I can take this to the next level. I'm not the guy that got laid off 3 times. When did you start to see the progression?
Oh, it's been years. It's a little at a time. It's like anything else, John. It's like one guy told me, millionaire gets rich one nickel at a time. Same thing with everything. Life experiences more and more. The more people you take care of, the more confident you get. I can tell you, it's kind of a crazy story. It just goes back maybe 13 years ago. It was New Year's Eve, and I met a lady at the casino over there. I had like 3 people come up to me and go, hey, Larry, I don't know if you remember me, but you took care of my mother's funeral. I'm like, oh, yeah. You can't remember everybody. You know, after a while, you know the main players, but after a while, you start going with son-in-laws and, you take care of 2 families a week. That's 100 families a year. You remember it most. And so a lot of times people come up to me and they say, are you so, yeah, you took, oh, yeah. And I try to.
Yeah, but you have to, right.
And I say, geez, I'm sorry. I do remember you're so-and-so. You're John Conenna's cousin. I do know who you are now. I will do remember. Once I put the connection.
Yes, I noticed that about you.
Oh, yeah. Very connected. See, I know what I've studied is I watched, there's a guy named Mike Bruno. He knew who your brother-in-law, he knew who your cousin was. I got that skill down to a science. When I meet you, I know who your brother-in-law.
And talk about something for like the pitch, the sale, whatever. Not that I hate to use the word sale, but when you remember somebody, like I'll say sometimes I've been in that situation. I'm out to dinner or something. I was at a Portillo's and the guy goes, John, you did my mother-in-law's thing a couple of years ago. You remember my mother-in-law? She wanted to go skiing in Capri and you found the ski instructor. Oh,
of course. Oh, yeah.
Now you've sold them, right? No, beautifully the way you said it.
I had a family last week. I take care of this girl's family. Took care of her father, grandmother, and we had to wake. I had to wake her. The mass was at a church, St. Raphael, in Naperville. And I've taken care of this family in the last 15 years, probably 6, 7 times. They all know me. It's hard to remember who everybody is.
Yes.
But it was kind of cool. This one young guy comes up and says, well, you're real smooth the way you do things. I said, well, thank you. I mean, obviously, I've taken care of other family members for you,
Yeah, but again, to get that compliment, huge.
It's any business.
Yeah, exactly.
It's once again, it speaks trust, loyalty,
Right.
Are you paying attention? Are you hospitable to them?
Right.
A lot of people aren't.
No.
Let me give you an example.
Very good. Thank you.
Yesterday, I had a wake here yesterday, and I stand by the office, and a lady comes up and she says to me, excuse me, so where's the restroom? I go like this, ma'am, come right this. I didn't sit down. I physically walked her.
Took her to the restroom.
She was, oh, I'm sorry. I said, I'm sorry to bother. I said, you're not bothering me. This is why I'm here. And that's one thing I always try to do. Meet people where they're at. And, as an example, if I'm going to say, John, this is a cell phone, John. This is how we turn it on. I assume you got to meet people at their level.
You do.
Nobody wants to be dismissed.
No, nobody wants to be dismissed because the comment will come out. He didn't have that. Friel and Conenna didn't have the time of day for me to be right there, and which you do. I want to talk more then, of course, about here and what you're doing here now, being the associate funeral director here for Cumberland Chapels. Here we are in Norwich today. Your demeanor is something that I think a lot of people should take a lesson about, especially the skill. Of course, the way you present it. I know you have to wear a suit. I know you have to wear a tie. I get that. But it's the demeanor, how you are from the beginning of when they come in to ask you to pick, the coffin out, what arrangements you need, what mass cards. It's always been the same because, we've had so many here from my family. That's why I can toot the horn of a Larry Friel. What do you think you have brought to the table besides what I just mentioned? What do you think you bring to the table in the sense of, hey, your forte? Let's say the forte.
Sure. First of all, when they call you, you got to meet them where they're at.
Got it.
I'll tell you kind of a crazy story one time where I've done this twice. Took care of a funeral, and about 2 weeks later, a friend of the family calls me at 10 o'clock at night, and guy in Park Ridge, I answered the phone. Hey, how you doing? Goes, Larry, something terrible has happened. He mentioned a mutual friend of our son was murdered. And it was a Saturday night about 10 o'clock, September 4th, 2004, I remember.
Jeez.
And he said, you guys want me to come over where you're at? He says, no. Guy calls me 10 minutes later. He goes, any chance you can come over to the house? And there was a counselor from Maine South. His kid was murdered. A guy named Denny McCann, become one of my lifetime friends.
Wow.
And I said, let me drop my son off. Where does he live? Higgins in Harlem. I went right to the guy's house. Tragedy. His son and another kid were murdered. And I remember getting out of my car, and there was a Park Ridge cop standing there. And it was one of the harder ones I ever took care of. Father knew me because my kid wrestled for him. And his son was killed in North Carolina. And he said to me, how are you going to do this, Larry? I said, Dennis, do you really want me to explain everything to you? He goes, I trust you.
Wow.
I had to get his son picked up and bombed, shipped to Chicago. There was a lot of details involved in it.
Sure.
And I've had that. Unfortunately, I'll never forget another time I was coming here and the phone rings in the car, and I answered, and the guy goes, Larry there? Just Larry mentions his name. He says, Dennis McCann called you. Dennis, again, he was my son's wrestling coach. He was my daughter's counselor. Wonderful, wonderful guy.
Sure.
And I said, no, he goes, well, I need to talk to you about making funeral arrangements. And a lot of people call me on my cell phone, and it's okay. So I was just driving by St. Eugene's. I said to the guy, I said, tell you what, I said, I'll be at the funeral about a mile away. So any chance I call right back at the summer? I don't be taking a death call when I'm driving a car. I want to get to my desk. And
Sure.
so I called the guy back, and his name was Jack. And he said, yeah, my son passed away. He's at the Cook County Medical Examiner. And I know that's no good when they're down there. So I said to him, do you know where I'm located? He goes, no, I don't. The guy lived like at Talcon D, where he didn't know where Cumberland Chapels was. To me, it's like saying you don't know where Wrigley Field is. It's more popular than the Hancock Center, for Christ's sake. Everybody's been there at least once. So, it was a terrible thing. This guy walks in with two guys and two girls. I knew right away who the mother was. Kid overdosed. And the kid graduated from Maine South on a Sunday. I buried him the following Saturday. This goes back 20 years ago. And the kid today would be about 38. And, as soon as I got downstairs, I knew something was wrong. And I said to the father, I said, obviously I'm going to know. I said, what happened? He goes, well, just by the way, he said, well, I just knew it was an OD. I've taken care of about 8 or 9 kids out of this funeral that have OD'd. Sad. Good families too.
Sure.
Terrible stuff. So you just gotta,
and again, I'm sure the company they kept and which was out of the family's control. Yeah.
Oh, every instance. Yeah. So,
But you see, what you just talked about in this short 5 minutes that you broke this down, again, it's your demeanor.
Yeah.
Because if you go in there like, oh my God,
oh, no.
now you have rattled the whole party here. And this is.
I feel like I'm an old outfit guy sitting in the corner, just quiet, just
okay,
observe.
this is what we're going to
I
do.
don't
This
get
is how it's
excited.
going to happen and everything
John,
else.
they can light a fire right there. I don't even get excited. I go, okay, where's the fire extinguisher?
Yeah.
So I was raised by a guy that was
not running and causing the havoc that you don't need in this situation here at all.
One of the companies we use for our hearses, it was really good. It's called Marty Williams, great guy. And he always told me, my guys like drive, you never get excited. I don't care if there's 500 people on a funeral or 10, I'm the same demeanor. I don't get excited. I just go with the flow.
And that's the big thing I've noticed about you all these years. Let's talk about Cumberland Chapels, where we are sitting here today. By the way, we're at the halfway point of our interview today with Associate Funeral Director Larry Friel. We are at Cumberland Chapels here in Norridge, Illinois, a mainstay since 1985. Larry's been here since 1985. And Larry, how does Larry Friel get to Cumberland Chapels?
Well, it turned, I mentioned Don Santo to you.
Yes.
Don Santo lived on Olean.
The embalmer.
He passed away about 20 years ago. And he used to embalm for Salerno on North Avenue, Mobile and North Avenue, Hill.
Sure.
And one of the guys working there was Tony Lupo. He was an employee of Salerno. And so that's how I met Tony and Donald and I. And then Tony quit working for Salerno. And I would help him out. Once again, we pick up a deceased person, we call it removal. I'd make his removals, I'd do his embalming. So Tony Lupo and I were together way before even Cumberland was open.
Wow.
I'd help him out. And then kind of a cute story, he calls me up one day, said, I need to see you for breakfast. I said, sure. This is probably like 1984. And we parked across the street. There were 4 houses here. And he said to me, Alex Carbonera? I said, yeah, I know Alex. He says, Peter Louis Martino? I said, I don't know him well, but I know what they are. He goes, we're building a funeral home and you're coming with us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you take it as the compliment of compliments at that time?
Yeah, of course, because, my dream was always to have a funeral home here too, because I grew up 8 blocks from here.
Sure.
And this is like, pretty good situation here. And he invited me to be here. I mean, I literally, John, when this place was being built, Tony and I would be walking through here when they were building it. I actually carried furniture off the truck on the west lot there me and a guy was called Lightfoot and Tom Gianola and a bunch of other guys. We were I physically brought the furniture in.
Furniture, yeah.
So, I'm Louis Martino and I are the only 2 guys that are still here since opening day.
Wow.
Which is August 1985.
Incredible. And then Louis Martino, of course, many years. Right.
Well, yeah, we were here together.
Sure.
Louis and I have been on a couple hundred funerals together.
Sure.
Louis and we sit next to each other. We're together all the time.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, so I got to ask you, 1985, you're here. Do you remember what was a Larry Friel doing in 85?
Oh, I was embalming for a lot of different funeral homes back then. And I was 29 years old when this place opened up. And a lot of people aren't going to call a 29-year-old guy for a funeral, just the way it works.
Well, yeah.
And what used to irritate me was when the older undertakers said, when your hair starts turning gray, they used to irritate me, but you know what? They were right. Most people don't feel comfortable calling a younger guy. What an older guy would experience.
And again, look at the powerhouse of names that you were with and the mention. So yeah, I mean, there was like a starting lineup on a Chicago Cub team,
all-star team.
An all-star team, right.
And I used to, back in 1984, I used to go to these embalming seminars. I went to Arizona for a week. I went to California for a week. And I met some really, probably the best embalmers in the world. And I studied under those guys.
Wow.
So I know very, very few guys have done that. I mean, I did self-education before it was mandatory.
Wow, incredible. Yeah, and thank you for saying that. And I hope when people listen to our interview on YouTube and Spotify, which will come out in a couple of days, you said something just now that is key. It's that thing you were already studying and doing things before it became the mandatory thing. Exactly.
Right. And I hung around older guys. Like I remember Joe Vitucci and Bob McGill. In the morning, I'd be going to Columbia. I'd stop by there. I had the code to get in. I'd be drinking coffee 7 in the morning. He's like, hey, Joey, why are you using this fluid? Why are you doing that? I did the same thing with Alex. I did it with all the older guys. I would respectfully asked him, why are you doing it this way?
Wow. Wow.
And
again, you're gaining the guy.
The one guy that I worked with, his name was Dick Golden. He lived in Park Ridge. He was one of the finest guys, one of the best human beings I ever met in my life. Great embalmer. And I remember I was 25 when I started working with him. And he said to me one day, he was, can I ask you a personal question? I said, sure. Just can you take constructive criticism? I said, yes, I can. He goes, then I can help you.
Wow. What a great line. Can you take constructive criticism? He wants to teach. He does not want to say, hey, Lear, you did this wrong. No, constructive.
And he would say, how did you do that? Well, maybe next time you try this. Then I had another guy named Don Sawyer living in the Castro Valley, California. I met him at these seminars. I used to call him up maybe 3 times a year. I'd write down a little embalming problem. I'd call him up and he'd say, well, next time, Larry, try this, or why don't you try that? So I always sought out expert guys in the field to gain their knowledge. Let me give you a silly, not a silly example, but as an example, most of our funerals here go to Queen of Heaven, All Saints, St. Joe, Mariel. Say you get a funeral on the south side. Let's say I'm going to Holy Sepulchre or St. Mary's. I don't know restaurants down there. So I call up one of my Irish pals on the south side. Hey, Mario, or not Mario, Tommy.
Tommy, Irish guy.
I'm going to Holy Sep on Friday. What do you guys send your people at lunch? I'm not afraid to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Guys do that all the time from the south side. They always call you, I'm going off to All Saints. Where do we go to?
Yeah, where do we go in this plains, right? Yeah.
Mario, who do you go to? So I get the connection. I'm very involved. I was one of the founding members of the Cook County Funeral Directors Association since probably 30 years ago. I know everybody. There ain't too many guys I don't know.
Oh, I can imagine.
I have an expression. If I don't know them, they don't exist.
I can imagine the connections and just
52 years. People.
I go to wakes. Yeah. I go to wakes. I just lost my daughter's godmother, Antoinette Dema, who the family, the people that own Nick. And I was in this funeral home in Des Plaines. I think it's south of Mount Prospect on Rand Road, and someone came up to me, goes, "Hey, are you friends with Larry Friel?" Yes. I go, I played hockey with Larry Friel. Yeah. Your name, if it's about this, is top notch in our industry. And I just love to hear that.
Thank you.
You are now an associate. I mean, you are a funeral director.
Yeah.
You are a funeral director.
And embalmer.
Right. So you are still not the type to say, well, not going to be doing the embalming today. I'm going to walk around and with my Gucci suit. No,
I've always mentored like Eddie Janis. I'm a funeral director and the embalmer. Now my son works for me. My son Jamie works for me.
Met him, another fine young gentleman.
He's been with me since 2011. I'm starting to have him help me out more and more. He's on almost every funeral.
Right.
He generally leads the funerals. We got a car, we got a light on the roof, we got the blast horn and the sirens, and he just does a great job. And what I love is when I get a call the next day, I meet the funeral. They'll say, "Is Jamie going to be on the funeral?"
Oh wow!
He's been with me since 2011. They're used to him being there,
And you talk about being proud.
Yeah,
that is again, behind the scene compliment.
When I was in Italy 2 weeks ago, I know you set that up. Thank God.
Thank you.
And I arranged 3 of the funerals, and 2 of the families I had to come the day before I left for Italy. I want to make sure everything was okay, and I know both families real well. The 3rd family, Jamie embalmed the lady. I made the arrangements. Jamie directed the funeral. Last week, I went to his house to drop off the death certificates. And he said, "Larry, your kid was great. Made me feel so good." He did a beautiful job on my mother-in-law. The only thing I regret is I didn't take a picture of her. So as soon as I go back, I called my son immediately. He said, "Hey, here's the feedback I got." Even though he's 41 years old, he still needs his father support.
But again, to hear that you have put this young man on the straight and narrow and teaching him this business, because there's so much to learn. I got to ask you an ultimate question before we go to a thing that I want to ask you 5 questions, because I want my audience to get to know Larry Friel a little bit better. You've mentioned a lot of places here today in the early years, and of course now we get the Cumberland Chapels here in 1984. If you had to take in account a rough guess, how many families have you helped in the passing of their thing? If you had to put a number on it today.
I'm going to probably guess, and this is just a guess.
Yes.
Say 2,500.
2,500.
Yeah.
Over a span of how many years?
Well, 41 years.
41 years. Yeah. 41.
A lot of them are repeat families, obviously.
Well, yes.
In fact, unfortunately, now I'm sometimes getting a 4th generation. Younger people dying of their parent, grandparent, great-grandparent,
And I'm sure, Larry, you've gotten the call from people that without mentioning names, have gone to other
Oh.
funeral homes and says, "Hey, Larry, yeah, we probably should have went with you."
Oh,
And
thank you.
I could see that. And that, but 2,500 over 41
I've
years.
been on, I know I've embalmed at least 13,000 people,
Wow.
which very few guys can say that.
Sure.
I've been going on funerals since I was 19 years old. I mean, I drove the hearse, I drove the limo, I drove the flower car, I drove the lead car. Now I ride shotgun hearse. Jamie leads the funerals.
Fantastic. Yeah.
It was a progression. It took a while to get there, but I've done just, and I still work. I've had a funeral director last week say to me, "You still work your visitations?" I go, "Absolutely."
Yeah.
Well, sure. I had Johnny. You know Johnny DeVries?
Yes, he's the police chief here. Yes,
Great guy.
in
I take
our
care
next
of
Norwich.
many of his family. And it's kind of a cute story. This goes back about 3-4 years ago. I was in a lobby at a funeral home, and John was there, and his daughter walked in. And his daughter started laughing. "What did I tell you, Danielle? What did I tell you?" She, "Yeah, you're right, Dad." I go, "What's that, John?" And John DeVries said to me, "I said to my daughter, if it's Larry Friel's wake, he's going to be at the funeral home. And if I'm here at night, it's my wake."
Yeah, that says a lot
A lot
about
of guys
the
don't do
character.
it. A
Yeah.
lot of guys don't do
You're
it.
not calling
No.
Joe Smith, "Hey, can
No.
you cover for
No,
me
no.
tonight?" Yeah, you're there. You're there before the family when they come in at 8 o'clock on a Saturday to go. Yeah,
If they're supposed to come here at 2 o'clock, I'm here by 1 o'clock, and I got everything set up the night before that day. Oh yeah, I always do an hour because the Italians come a half an hour early. Usually.
For sure.
They're Italian.
Yeah.
They're going to,
especially when they're drinking espresso at 6 in the morning.
They're coming. Sometimes they're before the sun goes up. But they're here. They're early. And I always I got to tell the force, make sure the flowers are there because they're going to be here.
They're going to be there. They're going to be watering them.
And you get to learn these people's habits, and not as good. Yeah.
A little levity.
I tell you a cute story. Alex Carbonara, God rest his soul.
Oh God, what a guy!
We get a funeral started, and it's always someone's got to use the bathroom, and Alex used to call them LMPs, last minute pissers. So listen, guys, we're going to start and tell you need to use the restroom. This would be a good time. You want to get sure you don't want to get started, and all of a sudden, Grandma's got to go.
Just bring up Alex one more time. Where was Alex's original thing?
Sure, Alex started. Wow, I think he started at Regal. I think he was around Western and.
You are 100% correct. But I'll never forget the thing he had going with my father was tremendous. Back in those days, if you were born in Sorrento, Italy, a lot of people would take the body back. And he made it a point to do that kind of work, which now becomes rare. Right. And of course, it would be very expensive. And he'd always say to people, "You got to buy the airline ticket, but let's get out of the
No, he did. I know he did. Alex was a great guy. I loved Alex. Alex taught me a lot. He was the one who gave me my nickname, and I used to love to go downstairs.
Oh, wow.
We're gonna have some coffee, and he was just
And you knew his son, Michael, very well.
Oh, very well.
Michael, yeah.
Oh, Michael and I worked together for many years. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think when your mother passed away, I helped Michael out.
Yeah, Michael, and I have something to say about you at the end about my mother, what you told me that'll always stay in my mind about you in 1998.
Is that 1998 your mother?
1998, yeah, she passed away, and about my mother. I'll never forget what you said, and I'm going to tell our audience.
Sure.
Okay, we want to get to know Larry a little bit better. This has been, we could be here all day. Somebody in my family, and I'm not going to mention the name, said to me, "What do you got today?" I go, "I got to go to work." And then I'm kind of excited. I'm going to do a one-on-one with Larry Friel. And they go, "Well, what possibly can you and Larry talk?" And I go, "What?" I go, "Between the two of us, we know everybody in Norwich, let alone the world."
Yes.
Just tremendous what you've done. Okay. You've mentioned a lot of people here today. I got 5 questions for you.
Sure.
You've mentioned a lot of people, one word answer, a sentence, whatever you got to do. Besides maybe mom and dad, besides some of the guys you mentioned, who are those early mentors in your life that when you're maybe at the light or taking Linda out to eat, that you still think about when you get that little daydream going on?
A gentleman by the name of Sal Madania. I met Sal in 1980. I was unemployed. I was working part-time at a funeral in Berwyn, Schreck Funeral Home. I met Sal. He was like a second father to me.
Wow.
He was a Southside guy, and we became very close. He even called me son. He had two sons. He'd refer to me as son, "Hey, son." And he was the most knowledgeable, non-licensed funeral director. He wasn't a funeral director, but he knew the business better than most funeral directors.
Wow.
Awesome guy. He would have been one. A guy named Teddy Nadell, one of my very best friends. He died 5 years ago. Teddy was called the Gypsy. despite being 20 years different. He was like one of my very best
The
friends.
best.
One of the most generous guys I ever met in my life. Me going to Starbucks, he goes, Doc, take my card, take my card. He get me one time. This guy was the most generous guy I knew. And I remember one time we were in a restaurant somewhere. He's like, I gotta use the restroom. So when he went to the restroom, he went to grab the ticket, to pay it. I'm standing by the door. He goes, hey, I got to pay for the meal. I said, I already took care of it. Man, he got mad at me. And with his left hand, I forget, listen, when you're with me, you're my guest. He was,
He made you feel.
he was 20 years older. Maybe he was like one of my best friends. A guy named Roger Manelli, God rest his soul. He was a trustee in Rosemont. He passed away very suddenly last August 26th. I grew up with his nephew, and I called him Uncle Raj. I wouldn't even call him Raj. I called him Uncle Raj. He was my friend's uncle.
Sure.
I always addressed him as Uncle Raj. I was with him about a week before he died.
Oh, wow.
We used to meet for coffee once, twice a month. He was a guy who worked for Comdisco. He did very good.
Right.
Just an awesome guy. And I've been around some really. I'm a blessed
And for you
guy,
to bring up these three gentlemen, that meant that there's a passion. I see the passion in your voice about these three gentlemen.
Eddie Janis, the guy I mentioned, one of my funeral director mentors. He was just a wonderful guy. He lived on Narragansett and Grace.
Wow.
And a little ranch. I'm still friends with his daughter and son. I once in a while I meet his daughter for coffee or something. He was just a great funeral director. He was a great human being. And he taught me something, John, that I do to this day. And in fact, I did it today at a funeral this morning. He said, Larry, went to the cemetery. When you're saying goodbye to the people, always say, I'm sorry about your mom, sorry about your dad. Eddie taught me that 30 years. I do that in every funeral.
What a touch that is, because
Eddie Janis,
God
rest his soul.
To know, and it just shows. I never met Mr. Janis, but by you saying that, it shows that you cared about them coming to you, and of course, you cared about the passing of that individual.
Absolutely,
without a doubt.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you. Let's get to know you a little bit better here.
Yeah.
Give me your favorite two movies that you can watch 200 times and not get bored. Like
my cousin Vinny.
Oh, the Utes.
Utes, disrespect. That's a pretty good one. I mean, that was a good.
Love it. Fred Gwynn playing.
Boy, I guess that going. I'm not too much of a movie. A lot of times at night, Linda and I are putting on Netflix. I don't even hear of it.
I know.
But my cousin Vinny was one I
watched. The best.
Oh, I'll tell you, Major League Baseball.
Oh, that's a good one.
Being a baseball coach, the language is a little strong, but it's a.
But I love my cousin Vinny with Marissa Tomei and Joe Pesci, without a doubt, and Fred Gwynn, Herman Munster.
Herman Munster, the best. Yeah.
You come in my courtroom with that. He wasn't. He didn't have a Larry Friel suit on.
No.
Okay. What is the go-to restaurant or the go-to food that you like to have when you've had the long day, or you call Linda and you say, "Hey, hon, we're going here." What's the go-to for Larry Friel?
We got 3 places. We don't want to offend any because we're friends at all.
Oh, I know. Could have been a lot of places.
You're putting me in a squeeze here. Rosa Cucina Biagio.
Oh, very nice lady, Rosa.
Oh, sure. First, she's a personal friend of mine.
Oh, yeah, great lady.
Great lady. A lot of my funeral lunches go to her.
Yes.
She takes good care of them. I'm real good friends with Rafael over Rafi's over on Irving and Oriole.
Okay.
Great guy. And Nuccio from Rocco.
Oh, yes. Savino and Rocky DeFrenza. Sure.
We call him Nuccio. A wonderful guy.
Oh, sure, without doubt.
Rose, a wonderful. And I mean, I'm blessed that I got all these wonderful people in my life. I'm a blessed.
Like, you're right. I put you on the spot there a little bit, but I mean, I know you're a frequenter of everyone.
Oh, yeah.
If somebody's being nice to you, you are a frequenter to everyone. I see that just in your social media life, and I see that just by talking to you. Okay. You're having that day. You've had that day, good or bad. You've had that day. Give me a couple songs that Larry Friel wants to just chill out at. What kind of music do you?
Oh, Chicago.
Okay.
There's a song that never made a big hit, but I would recommend anyone listen. It's called "Love Is." I think it's "Love Is New" by Chicago. What a beautiful song.
It wasn't one of their top ones, but yeah.
I think it was in the streets, hot streets. They made some really good.
So you were a big Cetera guy.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love Chicago. In fact, unfortunately, Walt Perzader just passed away last week.
Yeah,
saxophone player. I met Danny Serafin here at the funeral home.
Danny Serafin?
Yeah. His cousin His deceased was getting Bob Colangelo. Bob was the police chief in Park Ridge. And as I mentioned to you, I was an alderman in Park Ridge, so I was pretty tight with those people. So I got the wake going here in the lobby of the funeral home, and Bob Colangelo, the police chief, and I were sitting down like this, and I see this guy walk. He goes, "Danny, come over here." I didn't know it was his. I didn't know they were cousins. So this guy sits down. "How you doing?" This is Larry.
Yeah.
I was at the time I was thinking of running for mayor, and he goes, "This could be the next mayor of Park Ridge, good friend of mine." So I look at this guy dance there. I go, "So Danny, what do you do?" And Bobby goes, "Larry, he's a drummer for Chicago." I said, "Oh, for Christ's sake!" And he grew up right here. He grew up here at Oak Park in Addison, and we started talking real cool. And then it was kind of cool. A couple of years later, I'm out in St. Charles at the Arcata Theater with Ernesti's place.
Ronnie Onesti, yeah.
And Seraphin was playing. All of a sudden, I go, "Hey, Friel. I'm thinking, who the hell knows me in St. Charles? It was them. You know?
Oh my God. But okay, so that song again, because I want to
Love is New.
Love is
by
New.
Robert.
And any other kind of, what's another one? Give me another song.
Oh, I like Over the Hills and Far Away, Led Zeppelin.
Oh.
In 1973, great.
Over the Hills and
Over the Hills and Far Away, Led Zeppelin.
When
When I started mortuary school, Diane Warwick and the Spinners, then came you.
Oh, yeah.
That was September of 1974. I just started mortuary school.
You better believe it. Yeah.
I also like a year later.
Yeah, I'm saying
The
it.
Spinners had Games People Play, 1975.
Oh, yeah.
So it's funny. Linda always says to me, "How do you remember all this stuff?" I can remember where I was in my life, and I remember what that song meant. Just You and Me by Chicago. I was going to Triton College at the time. That was written by, I believe, Jim Pankow of Chicago.
Wow.
I can remember driving down Cumberland just by Addison, hearing that song. Just every time I think of that song, I think of that.
You know what? And again, it comes out. Larry Friel and the Passion. All right. It's question 5, and then I got to say something about you.
Yes, sir.
But question 5.
Yes.
Since the days of the Lawrence Funeral Home, and I think you mentioned one before Lawrence Funeral Home, and some of the people you've mentioned, you paid kudos to everybody in this interview. We could probably stay here. For the person in my family that told me I would have nothing to talk about with Larry Friel, you're going to get it tonight. But I have to ask you,
Sure.
You've paid kudos to everybody. I mean, you have honored everybody that like I said, we could stay here another hour. If Larry Friel had to do this all over again, is he doing it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think,
and he's doing it the same way, right, Larry?
Oh, yeah.
Probably even better than what you've done.
You know, I believe that God creates everybody, gives everyone a purpose. And I'm not exactly sure the Bible says everyone's given certain talents. One guy's a butcher, one guy's a dentist. I'm a funeral director. And I always use this. People say, "How do you do this?" I say, "Well, I'm going to give you an example. I can't fly an airplane. I can't do a root canal, right? And I can't throw a curveball. But the baseball player can't do what I do. The pilot can't do what I do. And the dentist can't do what I do. Everybody's got a different skill set. You got to find out what it is and just become passionate about it. I have no idea. I can just tell you another crazy story. When I was 3 years old, and I don't remember this, my mother went to a wake visitation, and when she went to kneel or say a prayer, I was there, and I said to my mother, they put too much powder on his nose. And I was 3 years old.
3 years old.
My mother says, "Where would a 3-year-old?" I just knew as a kid, I knew I was going to be a funeral director.
Wow.
Just crazy. Divine intervention, I guess.
Yeah, that divine, and what's it? The intuition.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go back to something that was dear to my heart.
Yes, sir.
And of course, I'll never forget what you told me. But I saw it in your eyes, and you meant it. And I thought it was not a sales pitch, because at that time it wasn't a
I don't
sales
just
pitch.
sell anybody.
Yeah. My mom died May 31st, 1998, and my dad had it here with Mr. Carbonara.
Right.
And they came here, and I remembered you because we played hockey here in Howard Heights.
Yes.
We were on the Blues. I was on the Bruins, and I saw you. "Oh my God, Larry!" He goes, "Yeah, I'm doing it." I had to bring my mother's dress here the day of when you were going to embalm. My dad says, "Run this over to Cumberland. They need this, your mother's dress." And I ran here, and there you were. You came up the steps, and you met me, and you said to me, "Hey, I'm working on your mom right now. Thank you for bringing this over. We'll see you Friday night." And I go, "How's my mom?" And you go, "Come on, come downstairs. I got to tell you," you go, "what a beautiful woman." Larry, that stayed with me from that day forward. And I didn't go down to see her. And I says, "Larry, thank you for that compliment." Then for you to say that, he goes, "Man, your mom was a beautiful woman." Today, Larry, I want to thank you for coming on a conversation with John Conenna. This was great, man. Come over here, big guy. And this guy is great. I mean, the people that know him and love him, and I want to thank you and Linda for that trip to Sorrento. It was fantastic.
John, you're the only guy would ever consider going.
Yeah, thank you.
We had a great time
Thank
there.
you so much.
Thank you.
This will come out on YouTube and Spotify in the coming days. We have visited today with Associate Director Larry Friel from Cumberland Chapels, and you talk about class and the genuine of a man and grace. It's Larry Friel.
God bless, folks.
Good day, everyone. Thank you, Larry.